I think it's a bit insulting to imply that all men are abusive. A small group are, and they need to change their behaviour and be held to an account. The other thing I think is that, look, at the end of the day, is he really sincere about that statement? I mean, tomorrow afternoon, is he going to go down to the local rugby club and get up and say, I'm sorry for being a man? I don't think so. So, bit of a silly comment.
The context, though, was that men are the biggest perpetrators of domestic violence, and the context was that he was effectively ashamed to be a man, was probably more the meaning.
Yeah, and look, at the end of the day, everyone recognises that there's a group of men who are abusive, that behaviour is totally unacceptable, it has to stop, and they have to be held to an account. And the government this week announced a number of initiatives to actually protect women and to make sure that we live in a safer society. But to get up and say, I'm sorry for being a man, really is, I think, a bit insulting to all men in New Zealand, because the vast overwhelming bulk of them are good, loving fathers, husbands, brothers, uncles.
What about the 60 mil over 4 years being invested in what is a really serious issue?
Well, I haven't seen where they're going to spend it, but the government's already invested a lot of money. Earlier this week we made a series of different announcements. Our announcements very much are about making sure we protect particularly women. It's the bulk of the situation. We know that of the homicides that take place in New Zealand, about half of them involve a family member. So it's a very serious issue. There are women and children that die as a result of violence from their partner or husband, and that's a very serious issue.
Sir, is it frustrating when, as a politician, media pick up on one silly comment and don't look at the policy, as has happened in this case?
Well, I could always critique the media coverage of any particular thing we do or don't do, and there'd be plenty of times that I would be frustrated by what I see, but on the other side of the coin, it's also important, I think, to be careful about what you say in the context of which you say it. And, I've looked at that clip and he just doesn't feel sincere to me. I mean, in the end, as I said, would he really go down and say that to the rugby club tomorrow? I think he might say something completely different. And that's always the problem with David Cunliffe. In the end, you always have to kind of check the fine print.
He's had a hard few weeks. Do you feel sorry for him?
I don't spend too much time thinking about David Cunliffe. What I do think about it as my job as Prime Minister of New Zealand to try and make sure the country goes from strength to strength. Over the course of the next 11 weeks or so, we'll be debating the future of New Zealand and who has the right policies to take the country forward. And that's where really my focus of attention is.
The PSA says